Well, let's get some analysis on President Putin's visit from Onur Erim, who is an Ankara-based political advisor and writer. Hi, Onur. So they both said the bilateral meeting was fruitful. They both used the same word. And this was an expected visit by the Russian President Vladimir Putin. But we're talking about 6 years of war in Syria, and both countries were under opposing sides. And now we can see kind of improving ties. Well, how do you judge it?
Well, good evening to all. It's definitely a long journey. If we just go back a year and a half, with the unfortunate incidents of the Russian plane, downing of the Russian plane, and the very also unfortunate incident of the Russian ambassador being assassinated in Turkey, we have come a long way in Turco-Russian relations. This is the fifth time, as the president mentioned in his speech, that they're getting together just this year alone. And what is really important, what came out tonight from both presidents on both sides, that they seem to be in total agreement on how to deal with the situation in Syria, and that in Iraq as well, because both presidents, I guess, in one way or another, stressed out that this is a issue that has to be looked from a dual country perspective, both from Syria and both from Iraq. I think we will see continuation of this relationship growing much more to a higher degree in the area, probably ending up isolating to a certain degree, isolating Europe and the US from the region, especially when it comes to these matters.
Especially, as you said, on Syria. Do you think they both hold a common interest there? I mean, Putin praised Erdogan there on the initiated role of the de-escalation zones and the peace talks. But when it comes to, for example, Assad?
Well, they have started on the same foot, or actually they declared that they've been on the same foot for a while when it comes to Syria. I would not be surprised if Turkey had a shift in its policies and its politics when it comes to Assad, because they both have declared that, especially when it comes to Syria and Iraq, but let's talk about Syria right now, that their integrity when it comes to their territorial border is both of their concerns, and they both presidents said this is something we have to watch out for. And if this calls for a relationship of some sort with Turkey and Assad, that may also be coming up in the next few days or few months.
And when it comes to Iraq and this TRT referendum, especially in northern Iraq, Erdogan says that border and all trade with TRT will be closed. And when it comes to Russia, we know that they have a state-owned oil and gas company there, which exports gas worth billions to Europe. So are they really on the same side?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the Gazprom Naft today declared that they're going to hold back on drilling some oil fields in northern Iraq, with the IKYB. What's really important, I think, what came out from today's meeting, what became very apparent, is that the two major powers, the two world powers in the region, Russia and Turkey, will not take Barzani as the sole leader of Kurds, and neither will look for Kurds to be the only ethnic group in the region. This is a region where there is a shared history of many cultures, including the Turks, Kurds, and many, many others. And just because Russia is a detached neighbor of the region does not mean doesn't have a stake or doesn't have a history in the region either. So I think in the coming up days, we are going to see some major shifts from the overstressed, especially by the West.
As I was just going to go into that, Onur, because Turkey's decision to purchase a Russian-made missile defense system and the cooperation in trade economy, and when it comes to issues like Syria and Iraq, if this relationship continues, how is that going to be perceived by the West, and how is it going to affect the region, the impact of it?
I think everybody going to have to adjust to this new trend of relationship between Russia, Turkey, and possibly many other nations in the region. And, similar relationships may be starting to build up with Iran as well. This region has suffered more on the fact that the West has involved itself beyond their duty in the Middle East for hundreds of years, at least for 100 years. This region is now just trying to be by the countries in the region to be developed within its own power. What we're going to see, I think, is more cooperation in the region and for the region, not just for oil, because the oil is something that's going to deplete at one point or another. But Turkey will not be able to change its borders. This is where we live. Same thing for Russians, same thing for Iranians, same thing for Syrians or Iraqis. I'm pretty sure, and pretty much everybody else probably thinks the same way, the major interest of the West in the region will probably will be parallelly ending with the depletion of oil in the next 50, 60, or 100 years. But we will also be in the region. I think this is something that's being grasped seriously right now by everybody. And Russia's thoughts and the way they've been acting in the last, especially few years about the region, shows us a lot. If this means more cooperation, stressing the boundaries of NATO and what the NATO members will do, let it be, because everybody is going to have to adjust to this, both the countries in the region and countries around the world, especially in the West.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much for that insight and analysis, Onur Erim there.